So first of all, welcome everyone to join the forum. So 小黑啊，你在吗？
这边开始了。
You don't need to share your
Okay.
screen. Jin-Gi.
So first of all, welcome everyone to join the forum. So 小黑啊，你在吗？
这边
开始了。
Share your screen. Yeah. Jin-Gi, please.
So first of all, welcome everyone to join the forum. Okay, so I guess let's just start it. Okay.
Yeah, but Jin-Gi, you need to turn off your share screen. Jin-Gi, please. Jin-Gi.
Okay, so I guess let's just start it. Okay.
Yeah, but Jin-Gi, you need to turn off your share screen. Jin-Gi, please.
Sorry, just for a second. I'll start over at this point. So, greetings everyone. I'm Ziyun from BTR Salon, and welcome to join the Island Hopping Conference East Asia Forum with us. Today we are so happy to have these experts from the East Asia art field. So first of all, is Yao Jui Chung. Yao 老师 is a Taiwanese independent artist and curator, and he's also one of the co-founders of BTR Salon. I believe audiences from Taiwan should be very familiar with Mr. Yao. And then here's Tomiyama Kazumi-san, and she's a archivist at the Okinawa Prefecture Archives since 1996. And she will share some illuminating examples for the Okinawa art movements nowadays. And then Mr. Gim Jungi, he is the chef curator of MMCA, and he will bring us an intriguing topic about how to change the public image of DMZ and connect it to the base of art and peace. And also we have Mr. Patrick Flores. He will share his experience of Singapore Biennale 2019 and talk about the geopolitical problems that have been encountered. So welcome everyone. And now I'll hand over to our host today, Mr. Wu Dar Kuen. I'm sorry, Dar Kuen is now muted.
Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
And now I'll hand over to our host today,
Yeah,
Mr.
it's an honor, to have all of the East Asia's artists and also the curator and all the friends here. Then today we will have a very exciting discussion or initiative about the island hopping, and because nowadays the East Asia we have a new Cold War situations, according to the United States and Japan and Okinawa, Taiwan, and the Philippines and Southeast Asia, and regarding to the mainland China issues. So I think so far nowadays, as a artist or curator or people, we should rethink or we go back to this kind of political issues and what the artists and the art people we can do for these issues. So I think today, first of all, we will have Yao Jui Chung come over to have our presenter and we will have Kazumi, Tomiyama, and Patrick, and Jin-Gi. They will all join us. So after 4 panel discussions, presenter, and we will have 20 minutes for our panel discussion, and our audience also can raise your questions. I'm really looking forward for today's forum. Okay, so Ray Zhong, you mind?
Excuse me, sorry. I think there's my sound of live broadcasting. Oh yeah, it's better now. Sorry.
From my side, I also hear the microphone's feedback.
Is everyone muted at the moment? I think there's my sound of live broadcasting.
Okay,
yeah,
so.
So.
From my side, I also hear. Yeah, so might be. Okay, so Rachel, maybe you can start your presentation right now. Yeah, the floor is yours, Rachel.
Sorry, you're muted.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you guys, and very happy to see you again. And about the Hoping project, actually, it's happened around 20 years ago, when I was in China, participate the Long March project, and so in that time, I'm thinking about why the Asian countries there's a lot political influence, but the artists, very few artists, did the project of the political issues. Why? So I think to rethinking of the history is very important, because if we cannot face the real history, then we cannot create a new history in the future. So for example, not this one. For example, so everybody knows in Asia, almost every country have to become soldiers, especially in Taiwan and Korea. And during the Korea War, because the China want to take over Taiwan around 1915s, but because the Korea War, Taiwan very lucky to escape from the attack of the China. So in Taiwan, we have to do the military service for 2 or 3 years in the past. So that's it to me, a very long time ago, 27 years ago. So now, because now the Cold War is almost become the new situation in Asia. So, and the military service in Taiwan now is very different. It's very short. So during that time, Taiwan just after the martial law. So I tried to use some real military service document, collect the documents, and to do some performance and actions to rethink about the relationship with China, because whole the Asian all have a big influence from China. But China recently did a lot things, including the recovery in Hong Kong. This picture is in 1997. I was taken in front of the National Museum of the History. It's the final countdown. So now you can see the Hong Kong situation is quite difficult. So the democracy in Hong Kong now is almost not existent. Its existence as past. So I just try to talking about my past works to connect to the last year I did solo show in C-Lab, because the C-Lab is Air Force Command Center, and I also did the Air Force in my military during the 1994 to 1996. So okay, so let me tell you the story, because this the China is really very, they moved to the other countries capitals in the very expensive area to create a lot of the Chinatown. So we can see a lot economic. They control the economic and the central in the very central expensive land. So I rethink about why the Chinese people want to move to the foreign. Why don't they stay in China? Why? Because the system or the control. So in 2002, the Lu Jie and Qiu Zhijie, this Long March Foundation, invited me to participate this long life walking visual display. So we have 20 places have to did a project. So I participate maybe 5 or I participate 10 places around one month. So it's rethinking about the Mao Zedong was escaped from the Chiang Kai-shek's attack. So I went to every place, very different location to upside down to try to reverse the history or reverse the pictures. It looks a little funny, but I think I have to rethink about, because I'm a Taiwanese citizen. I went to China, and China want to attack Taiwan all the times. So this work is not it cannot show in China. So we can see in Asia we have a lot system to check out your works is okay or not for the political. So I think it's especially the last few 2 years or last year in Japan has talking about the Korean females history, but the show is closed down. So, but in Taiwan, I think it's open for the public. We can talking about all the issues, including the political issues, the erotic, or the a lot of issues. So let's back to the C-Lab. Because the C-Lab is quite important in the past 2 years. They try to create some issues to the public, especially the museum or the other organization or foundation they want to do. So, for example, this place is when I was in army, I did my service in Air Force. So I I just put my document and my film into the military site to representation my memory and my, how can I say, my past, the pressure from the countries. So Jin-Gi, I think maybe 2 years ago, we went to Kinmen. We went to Kinmen to see some places, because Kinmen is very special places for is full of the bunkers. So the bunkers is against the opposite, the Xiamen city. There's a lot of military want to take over Kinmen. So even in Korea, I think in the 13.8 degrees lines. So I think it's going on, have some project talking about the peaceful project in the 13.8 degrees lines. So I think it's good idea to share to Korea curators to rethink about. We should talking about the political issues. To talking about peaceful is very important, especially now the China and the United States has a lot. They just rearranged their positions, especially the economic and the military, or other things. So the other one is this location, also in slab. Even it's become ruins. But these buildings, I create fake countries. The fake country is called the Republic of Cynic. So because now the virus, we cannot go abroad. So everybody can come here to get the passport, and the passport is a real passport. Looks like a real, and you can get a flag. Then this project actually is rethinking about what is country, what is the control, what is the borderline. And I use a very funny way to try to broken the limited of the control of our government. So first of all, I used some history in Taiwan, very important history, such as like this one is in Taiwan out of the United Nations. So the people is divorced with the United States. So people very angry go to the embassy to throw the eggs. We can see the film in here. So if possible, I think we can, because the reason, so I think this conference, I just thinking about maybe we can have some connection or organization to run kind of the biennial about the island, because we think about
sorry, Rejong, your screen didn't share works.
真的吗？这边有吧？ Did you saw that?
Yeah, now it works.
I'm sorry. So because this is a fake countries, it's try to rethink about what is country, and the Asian Pacific has a lot island, and through the history, we think about our old culture or old biennials is based on the mainland conceptual ideas to create to run the project. So I think maybe we can have some maybe we can have some biennial for the island or for the organization to talking about the peaceful or the territory or the war, and or even the virus is kind of the war. So later I will put the link to share the link to the everybody to see about to think about we can use some abandoned or the historical or the military bunkers or the ruins to creation some works and ask people to thinking about the history is very important, not just to show about your intelligence or you did a lot of beautiful works. I think to thinking about the history is very important. Okay, so in C-Lab, they are really focused on support the young artists and to, I guess, the some Western aesthetic. So now we try to development our local aesthetics and try to creation some ideas to think about what is the fake and then what is the real history. Even now China, they try to erase all the history. It's bad for them. So we did this in last year. So if you have time, you can take a look. Okay, so I just try to share my experience to you. We can by this time to think about what is real country and what is the country for. But we think about the country now is a little bit losing his energy because it's become in Asia. It's become the people got a lot of power, but they try to control all the peoples, their citizens. They don't want to telling the truth. So I think the art is a very very important issues is to talking about the under tables history and creation a space let people to think about and try to imagination their futures.
Excuse me, sorry, Ray Jong. Could you show the audience, the previous slide about the Long March projects, and because you didn't successfully to show only this exhibition in C-Lab. So could you show us the other slides? Thank you.
Because did you saw that? Okay, because Taiwan also is an island. Is also occupied by the different countries in the past 400 years. So I just make it just like a dog to peace to make a joke to every foreign.
Sorry, we still couldn't see the slides.
Really?
Could you do it again?
Okay, let me do it again. Did you saw that?
Yes, now works. Thank you.
Okay. This me 27 years ago, very skinny, and I just piece and make mark just like a dog. So it's a landing point about the foreign politician, their landing point. So the key of the idea is from the long march, because we have to do the military service. When I was young, we have to be teaching how to recover in mainland China. So it's a song we have to sing. Return to China. So I just go to the military to do the service, to become the works, to collect all the informations. To talking about the control from the government. They try to training you to become a killer and to keep to protect your countries. But actually, the Republic of China now in Taiwan is a really a very erotic existence now. So this picture is very important because I was taken down 1996 October in Beijing. So they want to take over China a few days after they taken the Hong Kong, but Hong Kong become very bad now. So you can see, even if the China take over Taiwan, I don't think Taiwan were better than Hong Kong. So this is I was do my military service after and to take over China. But it's not. This is not important. The key point. The key point is the Long March project. The Long March project is organized by the Lu Jie, the curator Lu Jie, and the Qiu Zhijie. They are very important now in China. So we was reworking the path of the Mao Zedong escaped road again. Took 1 month. So I just upside down all the in front of the very important historical location to just make a joke. So this work is not allowed to show in mainland China. So this problem is why there's so many political works cannot show in Asia. That is it's all about our I don't know why some issues is very, especially the political issues is not allowed to show in the museum because we will examine ourselves not to show that. So now you can see in Asian full of the very, very beautiful, very colorful, very good-looking works, but not really thinking about the history. Okay, so I think my time is over. So I'm sorry, I'm not very good to use this Zoom system. So maybe Da Kuen, you can.
Thank you for Ray Zhong's presentation, and sorry about some technical issues because due to this COVID-19 eras, and everybody we are learning the new technologies and learning to become this new normal, and so nowadays we are experience a lot of this kind of online forum and online meetings so far. So I think Ray Zhong is really important, to his kind of work process through the past 20 years, and it's kind of like a symbol of Taiwanese artists who to face the historical issue and from his military service and those kind of the interactive about the globalizations. It's kind of representative about the Taiwan's one page of the contemporary art history. So on the other side, I would like to invite our next keynote speaker, Kazumi Tomiyama-san, and she's from Okinawa, and we met her. It's also about 2 years ago, and she will bring us very, very important and different thoughts from Okinawa perspective. So, Tomiyama-sensei, please.
Okay.
Could you share your screen?
Okay. Okay. Hi. Hello, everyone. I'm Tomiyama Kazumi from Okinawa. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone at Wicked Salon. I am delighted to have this opportunity to reflect on current issues and the future together with my friends in East Asia. I work as an archivist at the Okinawa Prefectural Archives, and I've been interested in impact of history on artistic expression and have been exploring what Okinawan artists have expressed under the oppression of occupation and colonialism. My small practice led to exchanges with Wu Dar Kuen from Taiwan and Gim Jungi from South Korea to share this opportunity. So I would like to confess something about today's topic. I was told that the concept of the island hopping project is to fight back against imperialism and form a regional art alliance based on the actions of artists. I strongly agree with this concept, as it is exactly what is needed for artists in East Asia. However, in the Okinawan Art Society, it is very difficult to create the basis for such an alliance. Today, I'd like to talk first about this difficulty. Before I go any further, let me explain the situation in Okinawa in the new Cold War scheme. President Biden has made clear his opposition to China, and it was sensationally reported that senior U.S. military officials said that China could invade Taiwan within 6 years. This has led to a lot of talk in Japan about possible conflict in the Taiwan Strait, although I believe that direct engagement between the US and China is unrealistic, but the Taiwan Strait crisis is just being conveniently used by those who want to remilitarize Japan. So Okinawa, located on the first island chain and in close proximity to Taiwan, is the most affected by this. The distance between the island of Okinawa and Taiwan is 580 kilometers, and while the closest island, Yonaguni, is only 110 kilometers away. Under the Japan-US security treaty regime, both the government wants to use the vast US military bases on Okinawa island and the Japanese self-defense forces bases on other islands as a deterrent against China. However, many Okinawans do not want to be victims of U.S.-Japan security any longer. The presence of a strong military base in Okinawa means that it can be a target for attack. Okinawa is a society that has never forgotten the tragedy of 1945 when at least 120,000 islanders died in the fierce fighting between the US and Japanese forces during the final phase of World War II, and continues to insist on peace and sanctity of life under the proposition that the military does not protect the population. The Okinawan people's campaign for the removal of military bases and the anti-war peace movement has been going on for more than 70 years since the American occupation. So the militarization of Okinawa since World War II has been carried out without regard to the will of the Okinawan. During the Cold War, the U.S. positioned the basis on Okinawa as an anti-communist stronghold, a keystone in the Pacific, and continued its cold-hearted military occupation. Neither the U.S. nor Japan has to respect democracy in Okinawa, so they were free to expand their bases. In the late 1960s, the U.S., exhausted by the Vietnamese War, decided to return Okinawa to Japan and force the Japanese government to bear the cost of maintaining the bases. And the hope of Okinawa is to be a peaceful island without military bases, but the reality of politics does not allow it. A half century after the reversion, Okinawa has been increasingly reinforced as a U.S. military fortress. This is a view of Denma Air Base, painted by Okinawan artist Ishigaki Katsuko. This station was built in 1945, literally one fence away from the dense residential area. The envoy osprey rests on its wings like a sinister bird. Many people may know the construction of a huge military complex at Henoko and Ora Bay under the guise of relocating the Denma. It is expected that this construction work will be increasingly promoted in the name of the U.S.-China conflict and the crisis in the Taiwan Strait. So, and this is another Ishigaki's work. The site where the alternative to the Futenma airfield is being built. The construction will reclaim 160 hectares of the sea, and it's a horrible environmental disaster. It is truly sad to see the soil and sand being dumped into our beautiful sea day after day. The government has announced that it will take 12 years to complete the project, and it feels like it is slowly killing not only our beautiful sea, but also our spirits. This year, the Japanese government made an even more shocking announcement that they would mine a massive 31,000 cubic meters of earth from a wilderness area in the south of the Okinawan island to provide the soil and sand for the reclamation. This is the area where a large number of the residents died in 1945 and where the remains of the war dead are still dug up. They are going to throw the soil soaked in the blood and bones of those who died in the war into the sea to build a new base, which 70% of Okinawans strongly oppose. This inhumane idea has angered the people of Okinawa very much. And already mountains have been cut down to the point of losing their shape in order to obtain sand and soil. And now they want to gauge out the wilderness. The Okinawan local government estimates the cost of the new Henoko base at 18.2 billion US dollars. The huge cost is, of course, linked to the interest of capital. Okinawa is now witnessing the proposition that capital derives the greatest profit from war or the threat of war. Just when we thought the world was going to be more supportive of each other in the face of COVID-19 pandemic, but we see the opposite. So, in the 25 years since the plan to build a new base at Henoko emerged, people's opposition that has tenacious. I am proud of the nonviolent resistance that people are putting up against such a huge opponent in order to achieve the world they want. What I regret, however, is that there are so few Okinawan artists to accompany this struggle. Exceptionally, there are charismatic figures in the generation above me, such as the excellent photographers, the sculptor Kinjo Minoru and the printmaker Gima Hiroshi. Individual artists have excelled in the face of oppression, but they seem to have been buried in their own personal anguish and never to have entered the public sphere. I cannot find any clear examples of artists showing long-term solidarity and action against imperialism and colonialism. Why is there no collaboration between artists and social movements in Okinawa while artists have shown great strength in solidarity in the democracy movement in East Asian countries? In particular, the tendency of artists born after 1972, the year of the revision, is to be very nervous about their expression being perceived as political. They don't go out into the public sphere. They stay in the private sphere and concentrate on private themes. Of course, that kind of art is also important to explore the inner life of the individual or to experiment with technique, color, and form is also to open up the possibilities of artistic expression. But if all artists remain in the private sphere, it will be impossible to develop the potential of art in solidarity with society. Relatively young generation of artists has shown an attitude to be politically transparency. Perhaps this is an inevitable consequence of the state of Japanese society. After the student movement of the 1960s, which ended in radicalization and gloom for some, Japanese society no longer expect younger generations to have the energy for social change. In a society of continued economic growth and complacency, being apolitical is seen as a virtue. There is little experience of confronting and thinking deeply about contemporary Japanese or East Asian history in school education, and a vague sense of history means that they cannot form independent opinions about the nation state or the ruling system. It is also worth pointing out that self-censorship among the artists is widespread. Many of you may remember the incident at Aichi Triennale in 2018 when an outrageous protest against an exhibition was forced to be cancelled. The object of the protest was a statue of a young girl reminiscent of Korean comfort woman, and a video showing the burning of a portrait of the Japanese emperor. It was a stark reminder that freedom of expression is at stake. This situation did not come out of nowhere. Since the 1990s, historical revisionism and hate against Asia, especially South and North Korea and China, have been widespread in Japanese society. The attack is also directed at Okinawan peace movement, calling for reduction of U.S. military bases. They say that this peace movement is anti-Japan. This showed that Imperial Japan's disdain for Asia, its former colonialism, has not yet disappeared in modern Japan. So there is also a soft Japanese fascism that is spreading in Okinawa. It has led people to the spontaneous servitude. The fear of being seen as political or critical of the system has made artists reluctant to think and express themselves. In Japan, a law has recently been passed to allow surveillance of residents living near bases. Depending on how this law is implemented, it may be impossible even to depict the landscape with US bases. The soft fascism may already have mutated into hard fascism, a blatant suppression of freedom of speech and expression. Okay, after all this gloomy talk, let's talk about a little hope. In January this year, a group exhibition of 22 artists was held in a cafe gallery in Okinawa. The title of the exhibition was Imagine as the Voice of Nature. And the concept of the exhibition was to question the development plans of the city authorities for coastal reclamation. This is a bird's eye view of the beach and its surroundings. The coast of Irijima, not far from the cafe gallery, and is a world of biodiversity with tidal flats, coral reefs, seaweed and seagrass beds that are miraculously precious for an urban area. It is a place of peace and tranquility where people can enjoy resting by the sea and tide pooling and observing small life. Is it really necessary to destroy the sea and develop what is it that we really must not lose? This exhibition provided a platform of art as a place to imagine the answer to the questions. The organizer of the exhibition is a photographer and the cafe gallery owner, Taira Jun. So, and this is a photo of beach taken in 1963, and it was lost when the first landfill in 1968 under the name of the development. And so I don't have enough time to explain each of the works. Let me share the images. So now you can see how much we love the sea. And yes, we cannot live without the sea. The total area to be reclaimed by the development plan is 109 hectares. Another 8.5 hectares have already been reclaimed. and the landscape has been transformed by the construction of a coastal road and a huge shopping mall. The reclaimed area will be further expanded to build a civil port where large cruise ships can dock, and artificial beaches, hotels, commercial and convention facilities, and the relocation of the U.S. military port. I also don't see how destroying our rich natural environment and inviting the military port into our peaceful water is the only way for the city to grow. So there is another question about the reclamation. In the hinterland of the speech is Camp Kinza, which serves as the major Marine Corps logistics base within the Asia-Pacific region since 1945. With an area of 274 hectares, it is the largest logistic base in the Far East. The Japanese and US government have decided to return Camp Kinza to the landowners after 2025. If this much land is to be returned, why is it necessary to reclaim the sea to create land? So this development plan and the relocation of the US military port became an issue in the mayoral election. So this exhibition was deliberately held during the election campaign. It was a way for the artists to collectively address a very political issue on the side of that politics. This is quite challenging in terms of what I have been saying about the way the artist acts in Okinawa. So the concentration of US military bases has changed Okinawa so much, but it's, let's be honest, our own desire for profit and comfort, profit and convenience has also allowed the destruction of nature in the name of development. Particularly the changes in the last 30 years, the rapid expansion of the tourism industry is changing the vernacular culture and way of life. When the old Cold War ended, what should have been a victory for freedom and democracy was replaced by a victory for capitalism. Since socialism was seen as a failure, purist capitalism has grown fat on globalization and neoliberalism, destroying ecosystems, widening the gap between the rich and poor, and stripping the social safety net from the weak and throwing them naked into the street. Okinawa was also part of this tide. But is this the world we wanted to live in? A new generation like Greta Thunberg is condemning the old capitalist way of life. The pandemic of COVID-19 may have come to tell us that it is time to rethink civilization rather than our lifestyle. And the participant artists of Imagine exhibition have raised their voices to change the world from the shores of their neighborhood. Taira, the organizer, has been working with community leaders in the proposed development area to encourage the city authorities to give more public input into the development plans. And Taira told that many local residents visit the show and share their views on the works, and that it was a moving experience for him to see art connect with the community and the politics. Moreover, two mayoral candidates also visited the exhibition. Taira realized that even such a small exhibition had a power that politicians could not ignore. Although the pro-development candidate won the mayoral election, it is not yet impossible to change the plan into a more humane one. Taira said that he would like to continue to promote artist activities and to work with community. The artists have tried to offer an imagination that poses to think about economic development with its attendant destruction of nature and to search for a sustainable society. I think that even if the participating artists do not verbalize it, their work has the potential to be a fight back against capitalism and imperialism. Therein lies the opportunity for Okinawan artists to participate in Art Alliance, which is the aim of the island hopping project. So when it comes to fighting back against imperialism, artists are not politicians. Artists reach out to people in a different way politicians do, creating an imagination for a more free world. I believe that art may not be able to change the world, but it can bring a new mindset of individuals. And at the moment, East Asian artists may be feeling overwhelmed by the bitter reality of the situation, but this is when we need to get out of our cave and work for solidarity. And it is of core importance, especially for the Okinawan artists. We have one thing in common. We are islanders. Islands are always on the periphery of empires. They inherently have a perspective that relativize the apparatus of the state. Now is the time for art to present an imagination of island ideas, maybe island philosophy that is different from the ones of nation-state capital. I will continue to search for what I can do in order for my islands to be part of this future federation. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for Kazumi-san's very impressive presentations and led us to need to think a lot of issues and questions. Yeah, I think for today's conversation, maybe we couldn't have all the answer, but I'm really looking for later on other panel speakers when we have panel discussions, and we can sharing our idea and maybe find some similarities, and we can communicate more and to using the as an island nation or island hopping way to rethink the continental issues. Yeah. Okay, so now for the third presenter, that will be Mr. Gim Jungi, and Jin-Gi now he's the chief curator of the MMCA from Seoul. Then Jin-Gi, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, so please turn off your microphone and share your screen to us. So the floor is yours, Jin-Gi.
The host stop my video. Please open.
Yeah.
Host shut my video, so please open.
OK，
Who is the host?
小黑可以打开。
有，我正在，只是他找不到打开，他那边应该可以从他那边打开的样子，因为我这边。
Hello, who is the host? Please open my video.
OK， 我这边没办法控制，他那个没有。
I'm sorry, Mr. Kim. I think there's a button that you can turn on your video. It's like bottom left.
Yes, I do, but the computer let me know that host closed me.
Oh, really? Okay, sorry. I'm trying to figure out how to turn on the screen. Sorry, please hold on a minute.
我这边跳不出来它的画面。
Yes, it works.
可我这边跳不出来它的视讯画面。
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
And then
Yes.
can you see my
Yes.
PPT file?
Yes, we can see your file.
Okay,
So
okay.
please go ahead.
So may I start?
Okay.
Sure.
I open your screen.
My video is okay now. Okay. Nice to meet you. I'm Gim Jungi in Korea. Especially today, now I am in Jeju Island, the April 3rd Memorial Museum. And then today I have a lecture here in Jeju Island with the Jeju artist and Korean Peninsula artist. So main theme of today is with the Jeju and Korean artists, we discussed about April 3rd and peace together. Anyway, so here we had a good memory here in April 3rd Memorial Museum. So Wu Dar Kuen and Tomiyama Kazumi together. So we had the East Asian Peace Art Network, Peace Art Project together, you remember. Today, I would like to suggest how can we extend the Korean DMG from not only Korean Peninsula, but also East Asian network. So from now, I would like to introduce long march projects for the peace art. 2 years ago, I and my colleagues visit to 35 cities in East Asia, such as Vietnam, Taiwan, China, Japan, and Korea. So Jin-Gi Cultural Foundation organized this project, and then I was the director of this project. You already know that DMG is located in the Korean Peninsula. It is military confrontation and symbol of national division between North and South Korea. And then it will be reborn as a base of peace and art. This is a tour program. And then the main agenda is peace in East Asia. And then in order to discover, experience, and then share the peace art together by connecting artists, scholars, and activities. So many people, many friends visit to East Asian cities, focusing on the peace art, establishing international solidarity, and then linking them to DMG peace art. So first location was Cheongju. Cheongju is a city of middle of South Korea. And then in Cheongju city, we visited very important artist cemetery. His name is Gim Jungi. During the colonial age, he was a pioneer of Korean modern art. Not only artist, but also he was a art critic, and then organizer of politics. And then he remained many agenda in Korean society, and then still now, so many Korean art people visit to his tomb every summer. After that, we had the seminar. So what is the position of colonial age in that period? How many artists, especially Gim Jungi and the other colleagues, make a progressive movement together. After that, we got a kick-off, especially in that day, we had a seminar for the Aichi Triennale. So you already know that Japanese curator and Japanese art critic and then Hong Song-dam, any other artists. So we had a kickoff. Any other, especially he is from Shenyang, China. Okay, next venue was Yancheng. Yancheng is very famous site of DMG. So I'd like to introduce this photo. The guide of this area was not art people, but he insists us that please change the DMG art because almost DMG art is based on the Cold War still now. So it is only that kinds of DMG art is very conservative, and then it's very boring. So he said us that please change the DMG art. So we can agree with this point. So until now, still now, DMG is the zone of conservative security idea, and then Cold War paradigm is control the DMG area. So we would like to change DMG from conservative Cold War period to dark tour sites. After that, I will introduce Kim Mon-tao in Taiwan. I learned that we have to change the conservative area to dark tour site. So DMG had to be changed from boring site to dark tour site. And then in Yancheng area, there is a gallery in DMG zone. And then Dongducheon also is famous for US military cities. So lots of US military moved to the southern part. So Dongducheon city is changing now. So many artists are gathering together and then change this city from the US military city to another community-based art scene. Not only visual art, but also especially music city. And then you can see the cemetery. So there is no name. So many Korean women work as sex slaves for the US soldiers. It is not the empire period after the Second World War. Still now, many women work as sex slaves for the US military. Not only Korean women, but also these days, East Asian women work as sex slaves in Korea for the US military. After that, we visit to Nanjing. You already know that in Jeju Island, April 3rd massacre, 30,000 people has been killed by the government. But in Nanjing, it is not 30. It is 300,000. 300,000 people has been killed by the Japanese soldiers. So you already know that this huge statue is Wu-Shan. This sculpture is very famous as a symbol of Nanjing massacre. So in the Memorial Museum, there are so many archives. So China is perfect nationalist country, so that the government are focused on this Nanjing massacre. So very important. And then so many archives was in this museum. And then it is the memorial site of sexual slaves during the Japanese occupy Nanjing. So many women, sex slaves work here. And then it is the base camp of sex slaves for the Japanese soldiers. And then next is Taipei, Taiwan, Taipei, and Kinmantao. So we visited together National Memorial, Alba National Memorial Museum, and then Viti Art Salon. So we had a discussion time here in Viti Art Salon. After that, visit to Kinmantao. So it is the bunker outlook over the sea. There is the Taro, Chinese Continental. And then when I visited to Kinmantao, I was so surprised because it is quite similar to DMZ in Korean Peninsula, but almost facilities is so well developed as a doctor site. It is quite different situation, more than Korean Peninsula, Taiwan. Kinmantao is a kind of cultural resource. So in the future time, Korean Peninsula, DMZ should be changed like this, I guess. And then, yes, here in Kinmantao, this nice guy his name is Yao Jui Chung. And then we visit Charon and Taju. So it's very famous DMZ zone. So especially visit to artists who is work behind of DMZ. And then I would like to introduce this great wall painting. The artist of this work is Gim Jungi. 30 years ago, when I was a soldier in DMZ, so I was a painter of this wall painting. Still now, it remains. It's very ruined, but it's very impressive. And then the other artist talking in Paju area. And then we visit to Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh. Name of this artist is John Leung, and we visited his studio and then discussion time together. Especially, I have to tell you that in Vietnam, the piece is quite different meaning. It's similar to China. China and Vietnam is the socialist country. So the narrative about the war is only victory or hero because of the strong controlling of the governmental system. So there is no pain, trauma, any other bad thing about the war. Only the victory and hero is the main narrative about the war in Vietnam. So museum projects focused on the war and the victory. And then in Ho Chi Minh, we had a meeting with Dean Cule, the Vietnamese artist. After that, we visit the other Korean cities, Busan, Gimhae, Namwon. So like this. So especially I would like to introduce you this city, name of Namwon. There is a important Buddhist temple, name of Shilsangsa. And then this monk is very important monk. His name is Dobop. Next time, when you visit Korea, if you want, I would like to let you visit to Sisangsa together and then have a meeting with him. It's quite wonderful. It should be a wonderful tour. And then next is Jeju, Gwangju, and Yeosu, Suncheon. Yeosu plus Suncheon, we call it Yeosun. You already know that Jeju is the April 3rd protests. So in Jeju Island, here is the wonderful status. So, and then we visit to here, and then it is the opening ceremony of EPAP, East Asia Peace Art Project. Many art people, not only Jeju Island, but also Taiwan, Okinawa, and then Hong Kong, many art people gathered for the East Asian Peace Art Project. So it was 2019. Because of the COVID-19, it is stopped, but next year or the day after next year. So in Jeju Island, we would like to organize Peace Art Project together. Again, East Asia Peace Art Project, EPAP, remember. So today we had the online meeting. So after that, Wu Dar Kuen and the other friends. So dear our friends, so please remember the name of East Asia Peace Art. And then you already know that in Jeju Island that there's a sensitive issue of Gangjang because of the Navy harbor, Navy port. Jeju Island is hot place of peace art movement in Korea. And then you know Gwangju is the symbol of Korean democracy movement. But Gwangju people and Gwangju artists always thanks to Jeju people and Jeju Island because of the existence of April 3rd in Jeju Island, Gwangju protests can be exist. So the people grasp gun after the Second World War. Not the soldier, but the people get the gun and they shot the gun. First time it was April 3rd in Jeju Island. After that, the last event of shot the gun, not the soldier, but the people shot the gun. That event was Gwangju. So from the Jeju Island to Gwangju City, the symbol of the protest, the spirit of protest is live together, live still now. After that, we visit to Yeosu and Suncheon. We call it Yeosun at the tour. After that, Pyeongtaek and Hwasong. You can see this huge bomb because in this village here was the military base. So the village people protest, and then it should be the first case that because of the village people's protest, U.S. Army was get away from that village. It's a kind of anyway. So it is Pyeongtaek. In Pyeongtaek City, there is the biggest American Army camp in this city. So 1,000 artists gathered in that village and then protest for 3 or 4 years. So still now many artworks remain in this village. So Pyeongtaek is the symbol of Korean peace art movement. Next city is Sonyang and Harbin. So over the bridge, the end of the bridge, there is the North Korea, because this city is located in the end of Amnok River, and then opposite side of North Korea. And then we visit to Harbin. There is a 731 unit memorial museum. So all over the world, many people know about the of the European Holocaust, but they don't know 731 units. What's happened in Harbin during the Second World War? So we have to know that. So I suggest you please visit to Harbin. And then in Harbin, there is a memorial museum of An Jung-gun, who shot the Ito Hirobumi. Ito Hirobumi is very famous as a leader of Korean who invaded Korean Peninsula. Not only Korean Peninsula, but also Okinawan Island. Before Korean Peninsula, Ito Hirobumi invade Okinawan Ryukyu Kingdom. So that's why An Jung-gun shot Ito Hirobumi. So because of Ito Hirobumi is the enemy of East Asian peace 100 more years ago. So An Jung-gun think about the peace of East Asia. After that, we visit to Donghak tour. Donghak means Eastern, how can I say, Eastern studies. So the end of Joseon Dynasty, they call that Christian and Western civilization is Western studies. So against the Western studies, the Joseon Dynasty scholars talk about Donghak, especially it is Eastern studies. So from the Donghak, the Korean people can catch the spirit of the independent movement during the Japanese Empire period. So Donghak is these days many people in Korea they focused on the Donghak spirit again. This is the Donghak farmers' war, a hero. Name of the artist is Gu Bonju. Next venue is Gimpo. So here is no DMZ but because of the river and sea. So even though there are no DMZ, but it is a symbol of national division also. And then we visited Okinawa, and then has a many visiting tour program with the Okinawan people. So I would like to say thanks to Tomiyama Kazumi-san again. So Okinawan and Korean artists had directly exchange together. And then in Daegu City and in Seoul, so especially his name is the hero of the labor in Korea is Jeon Tae-il. So we visited Daegu City because Daegu is the hometown of Jeon Tae-il. And then in Daejeon, Daejeon is the science and technology city. So we had a meeting with the scientists and artists. We discussed about the peace and science and technology. Then in Incheon, we met MacArthur, the hero of Korean War. And then the other sites. After that, we finish it. So, hello, dear my friends. Hello.
Yes,
Wu Dar Kuen.
hi, we're here. Yeah, and Jin-Gi, we have a limited time, so please, you can make your conclusions then. Okay.
Okay. So I'd like to ask this. So finally, I would like to introduce peace and art in DMZ. So we have to change DMZ from division to unification, from the Cold War to reconciliation and cooperation, from military area to cultural city, from the forbidden land to the ecological land, from security tourism to dark tour. So that's why I would like to suggest DMZ Peace Art Project. It is the idea of imagination. So in DMZ zone, artworks can be installed. So in this case, Kang Ik-jung, so he want to installate huge ring on the river. How about Olaf Eliasson? And then Evil always made this sculpture already. And then how about Ai Weiwei? So we can call Holocaust Memorial. And then how about Yao Jui Chung? Visit to DMZ and then get a photo, video, and performance. And then Chung Yeon-do also do so many works in DMZ zone. And then especially this autumn, Chung Yeon-do will get a solo show. The name of this project is DMZ Theater. And then this kind of Jeju artists, and then Anthony Gomni, and then Choi Pyong-gon. Many artists can visit to DMZ and then make it DMZ Peace Art Project. So that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jin-Gi. Yeah, I think, Jin-Gi, your presentation and also the proposal is really, really exciting. Yeah, I think we have our last presenter, Patrick. Yeah, and after Patrick's presentation, then maybe we can save some time and for our panel discussion. Hello, Patrick, are you still here?
Yeah, Darkwen, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, hello to everyone, and thank you all for your presentations. And it's a pleasure to be here, and I'd like to thank BT Art Salon for the invitation. I'd like to share my slides now. My screen, sorry. Is it showing up?
Yes, it is showing up.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So my talk this afternoon slightly moves away from the focus of the previous speakers, but I think I can pick up from the discussion on the public sphere of art and exhibition as discussed by Kazumi-san, as well as the possibility of an island or an archipelagic ethos and methodology in curating contemporary art. So I'm going to do that through the example of the Singapore Biennale in 2019, which I directed. My talk looks back on the experience of directing and curating the Singapore Biennale in 2019 with the aim of reflecting on how the Biennale structure or how the Biennale platform investigates persistent geopolitical issues. Specifically speaking to the construction of the region of Southeast Asia in the colonial period, beginning in the 16th century through the 1960s, and the imagination of the Asia Pacific. This reflection seeks to initiate a conversation on the method with which to complicate and hopefully reorient a geopolitical agenda through the varied articulations of contemporary art and their curation. This presentation will discuss works from the 2019 Singapore Biennale that staged tensions as well as propositions in crossing the expectations put in place by different modes of modernities and the Cold War. I must note that the Biennale was one of the global biennales that was caught at the threshold of the pandemic, beginning in November 2019 and ending in March 2020. In other words, the Biennale was at the edge of the pandemic's emergence. In this analysis of the Biennale, I would like to talk about how geopolitical concerns shape the production of a Biennale. In a way, I am trying to contribute to the effort in mapping out a historiography of biennales in Southeast Asia and how they enhance or resist geopolitical priorities. I would like to ask how, for instance, is the Biennale different from the earlier traveling and survey exhibitions organized by the ASEAN, or the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, which was founded in 1967. Immediately, what comes to mind in response to this is the talent and the intelligence of the curator, who mediates geopolitical requirements with critique and the contingencies of both art making and the reception of art within certain situations of encounter, such as in the museum or the Biennale. It is at this point that I would like to consider how art emerges from a place and how it transforms the place to raise the necessary geopoetic question and not to sustain the geopolitical one, in which art is usually turned into an instrument of the bureaucracy or the administration of culture to produce representation or identity. The curatorial initiation, therefore, can struggle with the bureaucratic and administrative authority and procedures and pursue the potentially exciting life of contemporary art. This presentation focuses on the goal of this seminar to discuss the post-colonial condition. I offer to this conversation thoughts on the structure of the Biennale and its geopolitical problem, which emerges from the desire of the nation-state for representation. That's one. Number two, the perceived need to consolidate a region. Number three, the demands of internationalization and the strategies of soft power. Four, the cosmopolitan and activist nature of the curatorial gesture. And five, the fantasies of globality. All these somehow intersect with post-colonial discourse and relate to the geopolitical legacies of the Cold War and their effects in today's globalization. Specificity of place is crucial in this discussion, and Singapore Biennale's motivation to be present in the global world, particularly as a global city attuned to the experience and attention economy and the industry of cultural spectacle. This is very clear in the explanation of the first two editions of the Singapore Biennale in 2006 and 2008. So in 2006, for instance, the Biennale was seen as a key component of Singapore 2006 and the key initiative of Singapore's Renaissance City project. and in time with the annual meeting of Board of Governors of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. So we can see this problematic link between the Biennale structure and the legacies of developmentalism and global capitalism in the present. And then the 2008 iteration of the Singapore Biennale was part of the it was a key initiative supporting the Economic Strategies Committee recommendations for talent attraction and retention as the global city in Asia for pinnacle events and lifestyle offerings, as well as place management of the civic district. So we can also see the link of the Biennale to gentrification, for instance, or even the reclamation of land, which is happening quite actively in Singapore. And this connects well to the discussion of Kazumi-san in Okinawa, although with a very different context. So opened 2 weeks prior to the inaugural Singapore Grand Prix. This is the Biennale context, no? It opened before the Grand Prix, which was located around the circuit in the city. So the theme of One Where encouraged local, regional, and international audiences towards new ways of seeing Singapore. So this is an interesting context to consider in looking at a possible alternative methodology beyond this agenda. So I revisit in this talk the method of thinking through and putting up the Singapore Biennale 2019, because this might draw our attention to a critical colonial moment. I first trace the provenance or the origin of the political inspiration of the title I chose, which can be linked to a quote from Salud Algabre. So the title is Every Step in the Right Direction, and it came from Salud Algabre, a militant dressmaker who took part in a revolt against the Americans in the 30s in the Philippines to demand freedom immediately and totally. This colonial incident historicizes, or better still, enlivens a biennale, and in the same vein activates a productive comparative historical exchange between two temporalities and two geographies. In an interview with a historian in the 60s, Algabre was asked where she went after the rebellion was defeated. She was quick to correct the interviewer with a statement that may well be also her manifesto. According to her, no uprising fails, each one is a step in the right direction. In hindsight, Algabre anticipates a theory of resistance in the long duration of experience, as well as for present and future struggles. While the intensity of its origin lends urgency to the title I have lifted from the quote, when it is read in another light of another time, it loosens up as it speaks to a range of efforts that honors the integrity of the reflexive self and insists on the need for that self to be part of a deliberative, painstakingly democratic collective. Every step in the right direction is indebted to Algabre, but in the spirit in which it was voiced, it is not to be reduced to the circumstances which had forced its enunciation, even as it continually stirs up the struggle for immediate and total freedom from colonialism wherever and whenever it is heard. It is this suspense, no, or protracted suspense, this delay and unhurriedness towards completion that sharpens decidability and the rightful, because ethical and aesthetic political action needed to tilt and therefore direct the iterative historical subject for that every step. I thought that this conceptualization of everyness, rightfulness, and direction should be fleshed out so that the voice of Algabre can extend beyond her historical context, which was actually already world historical because it was anti-imperialist. I wanted a mode of practical politics that realizes the promise of Algabre's will to make a decisive step, whether in a long march or in a slow drag of the feet under the auspices of an always already compromised power structure. Amanda Heng, the Singaporean artist, Amanda Heng's initiation for people to walk with her around Singapore in every step counts, addressed this desire for the Biennale to organize its idea in a subject who walks around the vicinity of the city Biennale with other people who took part in a workshop around personal history. The ethical and the geopoetic meet at this crossroad as both artist and stranger wander in the streets of Singapore as if to slow down and resist its hyper-capitalist acceleration, inducing what a scholar calls an arrhythmia, or a counter-rhythm to a nation's relentless global progress. Heng's walk, therefore, helps us revisit the effects of development that are linked with colonialism, the formation of nation-states, and the role of capitalism in this formation. So these contexts are also the contexts that shape the desire for a biennale. I was drawn to Algabre's political vision because of its generous hopefulness, as well as its open character that can find space in a range of human initiatives. Moreover, how it reconsiders what it means to fail and what it means to succeed, and the opposition between right and wrong, or right-wing and leftist, are important steps in imagining what it means to be post-colonial. I believe in this politics, and I thought this to be productive in Singapore, a highly regulated island state that was commemorating in the same year of the Biennale the 200 years of the arrival of British colonialism. I was intrigued by how Algabre's anti-colonial revolt in the Philippines would come in contact with Singapore's relationship with colonial rule as a precondition to modernity and industrialization, and of course its first world status in the present. The congregation series of, so this is still part, some more images of Amanda Heng's project for Singapore Biennale, and also a big graphic work around the Singapore Art Museum, which is still undergoing renovation. So she put up this text that says, "One step at a time, walking the way to stillness within." So I was interested in this kind of like slow politics that can survive everyday life and can also be there for a long time and will not be exhausted by, let us say, the power structure. The congregation series of Alfonso Osorio was central in my curatorial framework of the Biennale. These assemblages made in the 50s and 60s were composed of a swarm of species and substances, from skulls to carapaces to antlers to teeth and eyeballs, shells and mirrors, and so on. If one were to look at the works of Osorio, one could find it hard to disentangle the materials he ingeniously integrated within his pieces with such fascinating intricacy and density so that the constellation of things became like mangroves or a microcosmos. And he himself thought of this Baroque form not so much as an accumulation, as a continuity. According to him, they all work together. Either the bone disintegrates or it's fused into the picture. It's a step in the continuity. It's not dead, it's continuing. End of quotation. I thought that the idea of a congregation demonstrated the work of the Biennale, to gather the familiar and the eccentric in a shared space. And in this common ground, the public may deliberate upon the difficulties of difference or particularities. Osorio contributed to the language of abstract expressionism through his artistic practice as well as his collecting interests. He was an avid early collector of Jean de Buffet and Jackson Pollock, as well as of conifers for his estate and arboretum in upstate New York. Being gay, born in the Philippines, wealthy, and scholarly may have excluded him from the largely masculine late modern canon of tormented artists like Jackson Pollock. Abstract expressionism, of course, was a Cold War medium promoted by the government of the United States. And it's interesting to complicate that narrative of abstract expressionism with the work of Alfonso Osorio. This was for me an important part of the conceptualization of the Biennale, the idea of a congregation or a coming together of species within an assemblage of high modernist lineage. No? So this is Alfonso Osorio in his East Hampton, Long Island estate with paintings of Jean de Buffet and Clifford Steele. This is part of the congregation series, and this was the presentation in Singapore. It was difficult. I thought of including around 8 pieces of Osorio that came from New York, but it was difficult. I realized that it was difficult to bring over the works or to travel the works of Osorio because of the different species that he included in the works. And so the government has to inspect each and every piece of the component of the work because some might not be allowed to travel because of the ecological rules. No? So this in itself was a curatorial problem, and for me an interesting one. So if you notice, there is a long wall on your left that should have contained more of the works of Osorio. But since they couldn't travel from New York, I was left with a blank wall. And what I did, because it was a curatorial problem, so it needed a curatorial solution. So I put here the laws that govern the movement of species. This was the law that was required to be complied with in the travel of works of Osorio from New York to Singapore. Huh? Anyway, that is maybe for another seminar, that problem in itself. So this engagement with modernity was greatly enhanced by the presence of the works of Carlos Villa, another artist. In fact, this ensemble of pieces from Villa stood at the entrance of the main hall of the Biennale at the National Gallery, Singapore. It was my wish to begin with a story of migration. Villa was a Filipino-American artist who in the late 60s and onward labored through the crisis of identity in America, in a United States gripped in systemic racism, even as it envisioned a multicultural society and wished for a perfect union. He was a teacher, activist, organizer. Two projects in his name were very important: Other Sources, an American essay in 1976, and Worlds in Collision in 1989. So this is Other Sources, an American essay. So Other Sources was an exhibition and a gathering of dissidents of different allegiances under the atmosphere of music, food, performance, and conversations. It was convened in 1976, the year that when the United States was commemorating the 200th anniversary of the American Revolution. So this too was an instance of the post-colonial within the United States. So these are just sample of some images from Other Sources, an American essay. And then finally, Worlds in Collision, Dialogues on Multicultural Art Issues, was in the 90s. I think the year is 1989 to the early 90s. So Worlds in Collision was a syllabus participatory form because Vilya was a teacher and also an artist. And so he produced a syllabus that was also a form of forum. According to him, it was a kind of action in which presentations in the lecture hall were interspersed not only with poetry, music, and meals, but also a successful spatial fluidity was established between formal and informal gatherings. In his artistic practice, Vilya, like Osorio, mixed substances such as semen, blood, and feather, and linked California and the Philippines to the vast Pacific context. So I think this is also interesting for the island hopping project to also link up with California through the Pacific and also maybe through the Philippines, because there is a strong connection between the Philippines and California through immigration. With the queer Osorio, the migrant Vilya, and the radical Algabre, the trope of the Philippine would cease to merely pertain to a province or a post-colonial outpost. The Philippine becomes instead a way of making the world, a kind of method or a procedure in which art becomes a symptom of archipelagic scope, not a monolithic spectacle of solid and static continents. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. Yeah, gave us such wonderful and very impressive speech. Then now I would like to invite all of the panel speakers to come back to join us. And also today we have Takamori Nobuo, and who is the very talented art critic and Taiwanese curator here. And he will be curating the Asia Biennale in National Taiwan Museum this year. So today we have him will join us our conversations. So Nobuo, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. So yeah, if you have any question want to raise to today's panelists, then please go ahead. And also after that, we can have some conversation, including Jin-Gi. He has some raise some question to everyone. Thank you.
Okay. So thanks, Dar Kuen, and I'm also thanks to all the speakers with your impressions, representations today. So I think today we have discussed the topic from the Philippines, Taiwan to Okinawa and Jeju Island. And all the islands we are discussed today are located in between two empires, which means China and United States. And from the perspective, from the perspective of Taiwan, I think we are not enter a new era, because according to the international community, what's recently discussed is that a lot of people, they guess a new Cold War will begin between China and the United States. And from the social atmospheres of here, we also feel this kind of a new Cold War already became normalized in our daily life, especially sexually speaking. So I think my questions is kind of open questions, is that how could we react to this kind of a new Cold War, and combined with the COVID-19 pandemic, I think we are already entering the new era of deglobalization. So how could we how could we face it, and how could we react to this kind of a post-globalization situations, which already becomes our new reality? Okay, so it's my open question. So maybe we can we can start the discussion from here.
Okay. Yeah, so who wants to pick this question? Jin-Gi or Patch?
Well, thank you, Nobuo-san, for that big question.
Yeah, it is.
And I don't know if we can really successfully respond to that in this session. Maybe just to say that the Biennale structure, like the Singapore Biennale, in that structure, I tried to do something within curatorially. So if that is an aspect or a sign of an effort to deglobalize, so I think we can look at a particular methodology, a curatorial methodology that can transform things from within. Yeah, and in this particular situation in Singapore, I wanted to bring in the post-colonial as a way to historicize the Biennale, and also as a way to complicate the narrative of colonialism in Singapore, because colonialism was also the basis of globalization. No? So I think the post-colonial critique is important to raise when we confront the issue of globalization. So if you are thinking of a deglobalization, then maybe we can create this relationship between post-colonial critique and like maybe deglobalizing practice or decolonial practice. So it's a difficult task. It's also an everyday task. That's why instead of endorsing the avant-garde as a model, I looked at popular resistance, everyday resistance that was embodied by Salud Algambre. That, no uprising fails. Every step, each one is a step in the right direction. So I want this kind of politics to be able to dissolve overwhelming structure in everyday life. Yeah, it will be a patient struggle. Yeah, and it will not be spectacular, but I think it will be lasting. Yeah.
Okay. How about Jin-Gi? You have any feedback for Nobuo?
Yeah. I would like to insist that globalization is the phenomenon after the 1997, especially it occurred AMF. At the time, Korean economy was almost demolished. But after that, we have to meet Shin-Shiyu Shugi. How can I say in English? Shin-Shiyu Shugi. Shin-Shiyu Shugi. Neo-capitalism.
Neo-capitalism. Yeah.
Neo-capitalism. So after the strong power of neo-capitalism, all of the world's not only economic system but also the cultural area. So we have to receive the global culture. So, for example, biennial and then any other museum systems. Even though I by myself work as a museum professional in National Museum now, before that I worked as a local governmental museum professional. So at the time I organized 2 biennial in Korea. One is in Daejeon City, especially for the Arts and Science Consilience project. So name of Daejeon Biennale now. And then in Jeju Island, so I founded Jeju Biennial. So at that time it was entitled tourism. The issue was tourism because Jeju Island is a tourist city. So anyway, so I by myself sincerely and really want to promote the local art scene by the museum or biennial, that kind of artistic system. But I would like to insist that not only systemical process, for example, museum system or biennial. So that kinds of systemical process is very important, but not only that kinds of system, but also the important thing is art activism. So I was a member of 경기도 평택 대출이 Peace Art movement. So 10 more years ago, 1,000 artists gathered in that small village, and then we continued to fight against the government, police, and even soldiers. So because of the extension of American Army camp in South Korea, so in that small village, so village people want to take care of their life, their daily life or their community, even though their community is broken now. But I remember that thousands of Korean artists gathered in that small village, and then they can organize themselves for the solidarity of art and society, and then practice of art and society. So now I would like to insist again, museum or biennial projects can be good food, delicious food for the artists or art people, but that's not the point. Even though I am a chief curator in National Museum, but I am very hungry because I cannot include directly as an art activist. So we have to, now we are talking about the solidarity of East Asian art people. So not only system, but also outside of the system, we have to focus. So especially I want to insist Okinawa, Jeju Island, and Taiwan, and Hong Kong, that kinds of small small power can organize, and then they can fight against the great power. You already know that Taiwan is just 1% of China. Jeju Island is just 1% of Korea. Okinawa is just 1% of Japan. I mean that the 1% population, but that kind of small power can solidarity, and then they can fight against the great power, and then they can say that we have to reorganize the peace, and then we have to do solidarity. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for Jin-Gi, and I would like to echo part of your idea, because when I remember when we are discussing about the peace art, and I raised my question. I said in Taiwan we don't have the term called peace art, but now after several years we working tightly together, then I realized this kind of movement as a art activism, this which is really important. We want I think we should to redefine what is the peace and what is the art. Or peace art is not instead of like a harmony in mainland China or other Vietnam sort of countries. So Yao-san, Ruizhong, hello Ruizhong, are you still there? Okay. Yeah, would you like to say some initiative to all of the participants today? And Natsumi-san, I know in Okinawa you are faced a lot of the historical tragedies and also the American army-based issues, which is really they are not really welcome for Okinawa peoples. Yeah, but due to this kind of like two big empires battles, it's kind of like we don't have choice, and our voice as an artist or as a because artists we are not the politicians. Yeah, so the voice can be done, or what kind of is our initiative, or what should we go? I think I would like to hear of your advice. Thank you.
Yes, such as like in Europe, they have a Manifesta Biennial. Actually, the Manifesta Biennial is rethinking about what is Europe. So they will take place in different cities every 2 or 3 years. So in the way, so maybe we can have organize a foundation or organization to run such kind of these models to run. Maybe we can did some exhibitions or some event such as like in Okinawa. Last time we went to Okinawa, we saw a lot terrible caves and terrible stories. So I just such as like the Manifesta last time took place in Berlin. They use a lot of the abandoned or the ruins to show the works or have a dialogue with local peoples. So I think it's the way of the have a biennial in the museum. I think maybe we can think about, maybe we can do something different. We can do something in different island locations, and the location is about the very important history. It's historical event, and then we can try to let people to rethink about the peaceful is very important. Such as like last time, Jin-Gi, we went to the Kinmen together, and we saw actually the Kinmen before has the Kinmen Art Festival, but it's 15 years ago. So maybe we can do something, some exhibition there again because they have a budget, and then we can go to Okinawa, and then we can go to Philippines and some places as such like I believe in Philippines they have some very important places we can do something different exhibitions or performance festival there. So I think because the island always be it's no voice or in the is not important for the world. But now in the COVID-19, so everybody is separate, is connect with the so I think it's a good option, good timing to do this link, island link or the island link project to talking about the peace is very important. Actually, last year I did the Taiwan Biennale is also talking about is the peaceful because I used the Buddhism conceptual to talking about this. We don't want to kill any more animals or make more. How can I say? We can use our Asian way to do something, not just learning the Western way. Yes, that is what I want to see.
Yeah, so Kazumi-san, would you have some feedback to us?
Okay. I'm slow to consider and find recent words, but I'd like to share my feeling now. I feel that the new movement of Okinawan artists that I mentioned is partially result of the COVID-19 crisis. In a situation where we could no longer move and was no longer be busy preparing for a large exhibition. Ironically, there is more time for reflection on the present and the past. It seems that many artists are now reflecting on the fundamental meaning of their work and reaffirming the nature and climate of their hometown that unconsciously defines their acts of expression. So, on the other hand, COVID-19 is a kind of disease of civilization, and we are witnessing an emergency situation that is equally and simultaneously going on in the world. So I think it inevitably breeds a kind of world consciousness, the coexistence of patriotism, which is not the same as nationalism. Patriotism and world consciousness may encourage artists to awaken a new sense. So though I don't know if this will develop into an art movement in Okinawa. And then talking about the island-linked art activities, I hear that BT Art Salon is planning to hold an exhibition with the participation of artists from Taiwan, Okinawa, and Jeju, and South Korea. Now it is not possible for artists to gather in Taiwan to interact with each other. It would be meaningful for Okinawan artists to be exposed to the realities of East Asia and to be given the experience of redefining Okinawa in that context. So I think it might be a possibility of the process of decolonization of Okinawa. So but we don't have that opportunity at the moment. There is very difficulties. So what I want to tell you, I'd like to travel.
Okay, so thanks for Kazumi-san, and yeah, I think today the conversation or this forum is also really important. Not only for VTR Salon or the people in the different island chains, because we are all faced to this COVID-19 era. Then I believe in maybe next year, then we can freely, after everyone get the vaccine injections, then we can freely to meet each others. So really thanks for today you are participating and give us a lot of good advice and your initiative way. So our colleague Zhiyun, you have something want to talk to us, right?
Yeah, I think it's kind of the end of the forum. So thank you all for participating in the forum and giving us such a inspiring discussion today. So by the way, we will have another forum on 10th July. So welcome you all to join us, later on in July. And yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, so thank you for your time, and thank you for the audience who is watching us online. Yeah, so please stay in following us, and also for all the participants today. Yeah, thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.